As a brain doctor, I'm shocked. This fruit raises stroke. Risk overnight. What if I told you one of the fruits you reach for thinking it's healthy might actually raise your stroke risk overnight? I know, that sounds crazy, but as a brain doctor, I've seen the data, I've seen the cases, and yes, there's one fruit in particular that seems benign, and yet when consumed in a certain way, it could shift your risk of a sudden brain event. So if you regularly snack on healthy fruit thinking you're protecting your brain, pause for a second. Because this video might change the way you think about that fruit bowl. Now, fruit is good is something most of us grew up hearing. But here's the nuance. Not all fruit consumption is the same. And when you combine a specific fruit with certain conditions, or process it in certain ways, the benefits can flip into risks. Let's dig in. The fruit in question and what makes it risky. Right off the bat, the fruit we're talking about isn't a banana, apple, or citrus in the usual sense. The risk centers around fruit juices or fruit drinks made from concentrates, or fruits in processed or sweetened forms, which is where things go sideways. In recent studies, for example, one found that people drinking fruit juice drinks from concentrates saw a 37% increase in the chance of hemorrhagic bleeding stroke compared to those who didn't. That's enormous. Why does this happen? Because when a fruit is processed into a juice with added sugar, preservatives, concentrates, it ends up behaving more like a sugary drink than a whole fruit. That means rapid spikes in blood sugar, increased inflammation, and vulnerable blood vessels. As the brain doctor lens shows us, your cerebral blood vessels are exquisitely sensitive to even small insults. So when you think, I'll just have a glass of fruit juice to be healthy, you might be relaxing your guard. And the truth is, it might be the processing of the fruit that flips the switch. Why it particularly matters for the brain and stroke risk. Let's get deep for a moment because I want you to feel why this matters, not just hear it. A stroke happens when part of your brain loses its blood supply, ischemic, or when a blood vessel bursts, hemorrhagic. The latter, especially ruthless. Now imagine your cerebral vessels have been exposed to high sugar spikes, oxidative stress, and impaired vessel wall integrity. All things that can happen with frequent intake of high sugar or processed fruit drinks. One major international study looked at nearly 27,000 people across 27 countries and found that those consuming fruit juice drinks had higher odds of stroke due to bleeding. As a brain doctor, that lights an alarm bell. Because when you think about overnight risk, I'm talking about situations where your brain's vessels are already vulnerable, maybe due to age, high blood pressure, or vessel wear and tear. And this kind of healthy impulse becomes the tipping point. So the real takeaway: the one glass of fruit drink might seem harmless, but in the context of brain health vulnerability, it's not trivial. What this means for you: adjusting your fruit habit. Here's the practical counsel. You don't have to swear off fruit altogether. Far from it. But you do need to pay attention to how the fruit is consumed. Whole fruits? Excellent. Fresh, minimal processing? Ideal. But fruit drinks, fancy concentrate juices, high added sugar versions? Proceed with caution. One simple shift. When you grab that juice, ask, is this actual whole fruit? Or is this sugar-laden concentrate disguised? Also, if you have risk factors for stroke, hypertension, atrial fibrillation, previous mini-stroke, older age, this becomes even more important. As a doctor, I'd tell you, pick whole fruit, increase fiber, avoid added sugar, and treat that drink like what it is, a treat, not a health staple. Light touch of humor. Yes, it's fine to enjoy a sweet drink now and then, but your brain will thank you when it isn't the norm. Why the overnight risk phrase matters and what it doesn't mean. When I say overnight, I don't mean literal minutes after eating one fruit you'll have a stroke. That would be fear-mongering. What I do mean is that the cumulative effect of vulnerable brain blood vessels plus frequent exposure to processed fruit drinks can transform your baseline risk quickly relative to what you expect. The brain is less forgiving than you think, so when you keep defaulting to fruit juice after lunch thinking, that's healthy, you might be incrementally ramping damage without realizing it. And for someone over 60, where brain vessel resilience is lower, those seemingly small choices add up fast. It's not doom, it's alertness. And that distinction makes all the difference. The hidden trap. When natural sugar isn't so natural. Here's where things get sneaky. The term natural sugar. You see it on labels everywhere, especially in fruit drinks, and it sounds safe, right? But the truth is, your brain and blood vessels don't care whether sugar came from a fruit or a soda can. They process it the same way. When that sugar hits your bloodstream without the protective fiber that's found in whole fruit, your blood sugar spikes fast. Insulin surges, and inflammation lights up like a switchboard. Over time, that combination weakens the tiny blood vessels in your brain, the ones responsible for supplying oxygen to your most delicate areas. Those vessels don't break all at once. They erode slowly, like a river carving through stone. And when they finally give way, that's when a stroke happens. Now, here's the irony. People often cut out junk food but still sip fruit juice all day, thinking they're being virtuous. The brain doesn't reward good intentions. It responds to chemistry. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness. That fiber slows absorption, stabilizes blood sugar, and protects those fragile vessels. It's like putting speed bumps on a road that used to be a highway. Suddenly, traffic moves safely again. Protecting your brain. What to do instead. So here's the part that gives you your power back. The goal isn't to live in fear of fruit, it's to eat it intelligently. Want to keep your brain sharp and stroke risk low? Think whole fruit, color variety, and consistency. Berries, for instance, are brain gold, packed with antioxidants that neutralize free radicals before they can damage vessel walls. Apples and pears? Great sources of soluble fiber that regulate cholesterol and blood flow. Even bananas, often unfairly demonized, are fine when eaten whole, because their fiber balances their natural sugar. What truly matters is how you pair your food. When you eat fruit with a handful of nuts, a spoonful of yogurt, or right after a balanced meal, the sugar release slows dramatically. Fewer afternoon crashes, steadier focus, better sleep, and, over time, a stronger sense of control over your own health. That's the real win. Not avoiding fruit, but mastering it. So if this video made you pause before pouring that next fruit juice drink, you did good. Because what you choose today affects how your brain shows up tomorrow. A single habit shift, choosing whole fruit over processed drink, might be one of the most brain-protective moves you'll ever make. If this resonated, hit that like button so we can get this message out. Subscribe for more brain health truths you won't hear from the usual Eat Everything channels. And tell me in the comments, which fruit drink are you going to rethink today? Because your brain deserves better than "it looked healthy so I grabbed it." It deserves intention. It deserves intention.